Hey there, and welcome back to Eat Your Greens with Dr. Black, the podcast where I break down the science behind plant-based nutrition and healthy lifestyle habits to help you and your family thrive. This is one of those episodes that I'm specifically creating for my patients to use in the office, but that I know will be beneficial to all of my listeners. Today, I'm on a mission to help you shop smarter and break down nutrition labels in the grocery store like a pro. You may not know this, but I already did an episode about how to decipher the claims on food packages. Yeah, it was one of my least listened to episodes, and for a good reason. You see, a friend of mine and I spent a whopping 3 hours at our local grocery store examining food packages and nutrition labels. With a lot of effort and editing, I was able to get that down to a 1-hour episode, but it turns out no one actually wants to listen to an entire hour about nutrition labels. The reason that episode ended up being so long is that there's a lot going on food packages. It is intentionally made to be misleading and complex, and I wanted to give my listeners as much information as possible so that they could make an educated choice and choose the healthiest products out there. It's overwhelming, and the food companies know it. They're counting on you to be tired, rushed, and distracted. Basically, they want you to take just a quick glance at the front of the package, be sold that it's a healthy product, grab it, and go without really knowing what you're getting. So today, I am taking that hour-long episode and distilling it down into the top 5 most useful, most effective, and time-saving ways so that you can quickly and efficiently assess a product in the supermarket to see if it aligns with your nutrition goals. If you follow the 5 lightning-fast steps that I'm going to share, you'll be able to shop like a special ops team. Get in, assess the target, secure the goods, and get out fast. Mission accomplished with no casualties to your health goals. So the first step in assessing the target is to ignore the front of the package. The front of the package is basically a mini billboard. It's the magician's hand that's distracting you from what the other hand is doing, the reality behind the false magic. Claims like all natural, made with vegetables, or an excellent source of protein sound great, but most of these terms are not regulated. The front of the package might say no high fructose corn syrup, but it actually lists 5 other types of sugar in the ingredients. In fact, I regularly joke with my patients that claims like made with real cheese just mean that someone walked around the factory holding a cheese tray and there's probably little to no actual real cheese in the product. So ignore the images on the front of happy cows and chickens or sheaves of wheat or whatever graphics the marketing department came up with and just flip that baby over and look at the back, specifically the nutrition facts label and ingredients list. That's where the real story is told. The first thing you should zero in on is the serving size. It's the first thing on the label and it sets the stage for everything else. Let's say you grab a bag of veggie straws. This is an actual example from my original episode. Seems healthy, right? Veggie straws. But the label says that one serving is 35 straws. Have you ever eaten a veggie straw? They're like 90% air. Are you really going to count out and eat only 35 straws? Most people eat double that without even realizing it, and the same goes for things like popcorn. Many brands will list the serving size as just 1 cup of popped corn when the bag is going to contain 5 cups after you heat it up in the microwave. Listen, the next time you have popcorn, try measuring out just 1 cup. It's an unrealistically small amount. Do you really think you're going to eat a 1/5 of that bag? Are you sharing it with 4 other people? The reality is that the serving size listed on the package is arbitrary. It's set by the manufacturer. It's not the same as a recommended serving of that type of food to meet your nutritional goals. You know, like when dietitians say you need 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. And although recent regulations do mandate that the listed serving size should at least approximate what someone might actually want to eat, food companies have a lot of leeway to set this however they want. Now, here's another thing they do. Have you ever noticed that many products contain 2.5 servings per package? That's like 40% of the package. This is done deliberately to make it harder to determine the calorie and nutrient value of a product. When I see this, I usually just round up to 3 because it's easier to think about eating a third of the package than doing the math for 40%. And if that wasn't confusing enough, by law, food labels can be off by as much as 20%. And you know they're not going to overestimate how many calories and fat are in their product, so just round that 2.5 number up to 3. The takeaway here is if you are tracking your calories, your fat, or sugar intake, be realistic about how much you think you'll actually eat and do a quick mental math check so you know what you're actually getting. The next thing I do is skip right down to the ingredient list. Ingredients are listed in order by weight, and the first 3 are going to make up the bulk of what you're eating. If those first 3 ingredients are sugar, oil, white or enriched flour, or some kind of starch, you're looking at a highly processed product, no matter how natural the front looks. Going back to that bag of veggie straws, the front claimed that it was made with tomatoes and spinach. Sounds pretty healthy, but the first 3 ingredients were potato starch, potato flour, and oil. The actual vegetables were way down the list after the sugar. In fact, it was just some tomato and spinach powder that was sprinkled on the outside, making them sort of a glorified potato chip. What you want to see in the top 3 ingredients are things like whole wheat, whole oats, beans, vegetables, nuts, anything that sounds like real food. A different brand of chips that I checked out listed the following ingredients: whole corn, sunflower and or canola oil, whole wheat, brown rice flour, and whole oat flour. Now, this is still a highly processed snack food, but 3 of the first 5 ingredients are whole grains, so it's a better choice. Often, the shorter the ingredient list, the better, and the best of all would be to choose foods that don't come with an ingredient list in the first place. Think of things like fresh fruits and vegetables. You don't need an ingredient list and a nutrition label for an apple or a head of broccoli. After you've checked out that ingredient list, go back up and look for the carbohydrate section of the food label. You'll see total carb, dietary fiber, total sugar, and added sugar. Start with the sugar. The added sugar line on the label is the one to watch. It tells you how much sugar was added on purpose, not the natural sugars that you'd find in, say, fruit or plain dairy. Try to keep added sugars as low as possible. 0 is best. A good example is yogurt. There's going to be some sugar from the lactose in the milk that was used to make it. Unfortunately, many yogurts, especially the ones marketed to kids, can have over 15 grams of added sugar per serving, which is more than a fun-size candy bar. Recall what you noted in the ingredient list. Sugar can go by dozens of different names. Here's a challenge for me. Let's see how fast I can name just some of them. Okay, are you ready? Glucose, dextrose, fructose, high fructose corn syrup, lactose, maltose, sucrose, brown sugar, cane juice, castor sugar, golden syrup, invert sugar, molasses, raw sugar, treacle, turbinado, brown rice syrup, coconut sugar, date sugar, honey malt extract, maple syrup, palm sugar, rice malt syrup. I could go on, but you get the idea. Don't let natural sounding names fool you. It's all the same to your body and your metabolism. If you see 3 or more types of sugar in the ingredient list, think of it as candy and move on to a less sweetened product. Next, under carb, check the amount of fiber. Fiber is your best friend when it comes to feeling full, feeding your gut bacteria, and lowering your risk of heart disease and diabetes. And most of us don't get nearly enough. Like, we're talking half of the recommended minimum daily amount. Are you worried about the rising rates of colon cancer among young adults? Get more fiber. Seriously, it's not just for constipation. Listen to my episodes on fiber for more information about why it's so crucially important to your health. So, how do you know if the product you're considering is a good source of fiber? Use the rule of 10. Just multiply the grams of fiber by 10. If that number is equal to or greater than the total carbs, you've got a good product. For example, if a label says 4 grams of fiber, it should have 40 or fewer grams of total carbs. That means the food likely contains whole, less processed ingredients. If the fiber is low and the carbs are high, it's a sign that most of those carbs are coming from added sugars or refined starches. Not great for your gut, your blood sugar, or your long-term health. The final step, check the fat, especially saturated and trans fats. Now, fat isn't always the enemy. We do need some to be healthy, but saturated fat and trans fat are the terrorists, and you want to minimize them to keep your risk of assassination from heart disease and diabetes low. Sources of saturated fat include butter, milk, cheese, meat and poultry, processed meat like bacon and sausage, mayonnaise, lard, and coconut oil or palm oil. Trans fat is the worst of the worst. It's known to dramatically increase inflammation, and it's directly tied to cardiometabolic disease and cancer. The addition of artificial trans fat in the form of partially hydrogenated oil was banned in the U.S. back in 2018, but some trans fat can be naturally occurring or produced during frying. You want to know another sneaky thing they do? Products can legally list 0 grams of trans fat per serving, even if they contain up to 0.5 gram per serving. Remember how I said that food companies intentionally manipulate that serving size to make it confusing? This is one of the reasons why they do that. If you eat 2 or 3 servings of the food, you could be getting more trans fat than you realize. Now, last, I have a bonus tip for you. Don't forget the salt. That's sodium, because table salt is sodium chloride. Excess sodium is the #1 killer in our diet. You heard me right. It is directly linked to high blood pressure, which causes heart attacks and strokes and destroys your kidneys. Most of us are eating twice the recommended sodium per day or more, and things like frozen meals and packaged snacks, in addition to fast food, are a big reason why. When buying food at the store, choose items with no added salt when possible. You can always add a little at the table for taste if you want. You'll probably end up adding less than what the manufacturer would have added. Here's another quick trick for you. If the milligrams of sodium is higher than the calories per serving, it's got too much salt. Choose a product with less. How are we feeling? Are you ready to tackle the grocery store with confidence? I know it sounds like a lot to remember, so let me do a quick run-through of the process. The mission, should you choose to accept it, healthy cereal, Operation Flip and Scan. Get into the store and acquire the target. Grab 2 cereal boxes. Ignore the enemy propaganda, skip the front, and flip to the back. Assess the serving size. Reality check. How much will you actually eat? Intel check. Scan the first 3 ingredients. Look for whole grains and watch for hidden threats like sugar, starch, and oils. Run the carb fiber ops. Multiply fiber by 10. Is it greater than the total carbs? If yes, it's a green light. Fat recon. Low saturated fat, 0 trans fat. Sodium sweep. Milligrams of sodium should be less than the calories. Mission complete. Make your pick in 30 seconds or less and move out. Now, if this still feels like a lot, and you know you're going to be pressed for time when you go to the store, start by just picking one food category per shopping trip to work on. Maybe you're going to start with breakfast cereal, look at what you usually buy, and try to find a version with more fiber and less sugar. Next time, tackle frozen meals. After that, it's snack foods. Over time, you'll build your list of healthy products to buy regularly and get faster at assessing new items as you train your eye to spot the real health heroes from the imposter. The best practice of all? Try to get most of your food from the periphery of the store where the less processed foods live. Stick to places like the produce department or aisles with minimally processed food like dried beans or canned and frozen veggies. Think of how much time you'll save if there's no label to worry about in the first place. If you found this episode helpful, do me a favor and share it with a friend. That is the best way to get the word out about the Eat Your Greens with Dr. Black podcast. Better yet, take your friends grocery shopping with you and teach them your new superpower. And if you're a parent or a caregiver looking for more practical tips like this, check out the educational resources at eatgreenswithdrblack.com. I've got some free downloads, tons of science-backed information, and more content just like this waiting for you. Until next time, thanks for listening, and don't forget to eat your greens. Please be aware that this podcast provides general health information about nutrition and feeding of infants and children and is meant for educational purposes only. It's not intended to replace the important relationship between a parent, child, and pediatrician. If you have concerns about your child's nutrition, health, or growth, please consult your doctor.